The morning the convoy arrived, the entire neighborhood believed someone important had come to arrest a criminal or seize the old houses that had stood there for decades. 200 glossy black cars stretched down the narrow street like a river of shadows under the bright daylight. People rushed outside, children climbed fences, and elderly neighbors watched from cracked porches, whispering in disbelief. But none of those expensive cars had come for a politician, a celebrity, or a powerful businessman. Every single one of them had come for a poor young woman who, only the evening before, had quietly wrapped a stranger's bleeding hand with the last clean bandage she owned. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes kindness can change lives, and subscribe to True Tale Time if you believe every good deed eventually finds its way home. 22-year-old Maren lived in a tiny weathered house at the edge of town with her grandmother, who had grown too weak to work after years of cleaning offices. Their roof leaked every rainy season, their electricity disappeared whenever bills became impossible to pay, and every morning Maren walked nearly an hour to the neighborhood bakery where she washed dishes and swept floors for very little money. Yet despite carrying burdens that would have broken many people, she had never allowed hardship to steal the kindness in her heart. She believed that if poverty took away generosity, then it had already won. That warm afternoon, after finishing work, Maren took the longer road home because wildflowers had begun blooming beside the empty countryside path. She liked walking there because the silence helped her forget unpaid bills and uncertain tomorrows. As she rounded a bend, she noticed a luxury SUV parked awkwardly beneath an old tree. The driver's door stood open, and beside it sat a man in simple clothing, holding his bleeding hand with obvious pain. His expensive watch had been removed and placed in his pocket, making him look like an ordinary traveler instead of one of the richest men in the country. The man was Kalen Mercer, a billionaire technology investor and single father raising his 8-year-old daughter after losing his wife several years earlier. He had secretly driven alone that day to escape endless business meetings and constant security. While trying to repair a damaged engine component himself after the vehicle broke down, a sharp piece of metal had sliced deeply across his palm. His phone battery had died, and no passing vehicle had stopped to help. Maren immediately knelt beside him without asking who he was or whether he could repay her. She emptied her worn cloth bag onto the grass, searching until she found the small first aid pouch she carried for her grandmother. Inside remained only one clean bandage and a tiny bottle of antiseptic. They were meant for emergencies at home, but to Maren, another person's pain always counted as an emergency. Carefully cleaning the wound despite the man's obvious discomfort, she wrapped the bandage firmly around his injured hand, making sure the bleeding slowed before helping him drink from her nearly empty water bottle. She even tore part of her own scarf to strengthen the bandage because the original cloth wasn't large enough. When he quietly offered money, Maren gently shook her head. She had accepted long ago that kindness lost its beauty the moment it became a business transaction. Smiling warmly, she simply wished him safety, picked up her empty bag, and continued walking toward her humble home without ever learning his name. That evening, Maren returned to find her grandmother coughing heavily. The medicine they needed cost more than she had earned that entire week. She silently skipped dinner so her grandmother could eat the last bowl of soup, convincing herself that tomorrow might somehow be better. Outside, the peaceful daylight faded into a calm evening, but hope still felt very far away. Meanwhile, Kalen finally reached assistance and returned home. As doctors cleaned his hand properly, they noticed the careful emergency bandage that had prevented dangerous blood loss. Listening quietly as he described the young woman who had refused payment despite obvious poverty, something stirred deep inside him. Since his wife's passing, countless people had approached him because of his wealth, but almost nobody had helped him without expecting something in return. His young daughter, Celine, listened carefully before asking a simple question that echoed through his heart. If someone saved you without knowing who you were, shouldn't we make sure she knows someone remembers her kindness? Before sunrise, Kalen ordered his staff to locate the mysterious young woman. They eventually found the small countryside house through nearby security footage and local witnesses. Wanting to honor her publicly instead of privately, he instructed his entire executive team and security fleet to accompany him. As the convoy rolled slowly into Marin's neighborhood beneath the clear blue sky, every neighbor watched in disbelief. Marin herself had just stepped outside carrying a bucket to collect water when the first black car stopped before her gate. One after another, 200 identical vehicles lined the street until it seemed impossible to see where they ended. Kalen stepped out, his healing hand still wrapped with the faded piece of Marin's scarf beneath a fresh medical dressing. His daughter walked beside him carrying a bouquet of bright white lilies. Marin stood frozen, unable to understand why such extraordinary people had come to her forgotten little home. What followed left the entire neighborhood speechless. Kalen had quietly investigated Marin's life overnight and learned about her grandmother's illness, the leaking roof, unpaid debts, and years of sacrifice. Instead of handing her a simple envelope of money, he offered something far greater. He paid for her grandmother's complete medical treatment, purchased the small house so no one could ever force them out, established a scholarship allowing Marin to study nursing, and created a charitable community clinic in her neighborhood, placing Marin at its center so she could help others exactly as she had helped him. The greatest surprise came months later. After graduating with honors, Marin became the clinic's lead caregiver, serving hundreds of struggling families who once believed quality healthcare belonged only to the wealthy. Every patient who entered the clinic saw a framed photograph of a simple white bandage with a small handwritten message beneath it reminding everyone that the smallest act of kindness can become the beginning of someone else's miracle. Kalen's daughter visited often, forming a beautiful friendship with Marin and her grandmother. The billionaire discovered that true success was never measured by company valuations or luxury cars but by how many lives were changed because someone chose compassion over convenience. Marin never forgot the difficult days that shaped her generous heart, and every time she treated an injured stranger, she remembered the afternoon she gave away the last bandage she owned. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a heartfelt comment about the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you, and subscribe to True Tale Time so together we can continue sharing stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Special request: comment the words, "Kindness always returns," if you believe one small act of compassion can completely change someone's future. As the sun shone brightly over the once forgotten neighborhood, the line of black cars eventually disappeared into the distance, but the lesson they left behind remained forever. Wealth may attract attention, power may command respect, but genuine kindness creates miracles that echo through generations. Sometimes the most valuable gift in the world is not hidden inside a bank account but inside the hands of someone who has almost nothing, yet still chooses to help another human being. And on that unforgettable day, one simple bandage proved that the richest hearts are often found in the poorest homes.